Hey, this is Pamela Schneider and Greg Johnson, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review for Blue Book Services. Greg, it is almost Christmas, and it sounds like the House of Representatives is giving everyone a Christmas present in the passage of the USMCA. This is something that the produce industry has hoped for, isn't it?
Oh yes, of course. The USMCA is supposed to be the kind of trade deal that almost all of agriculture will enjoy, and produce industry certainly will enjoy this. It was expected to be taken up after something else going on in the House. I don't remember. Seemed like they had something going on this week.
They're busy with stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, after a couple of articles of something or other, they got around to USMCA today. And yeah, it's a really big deal. It's great for the produce industry. Most of them, there's a few areas of the country that opposes USMCA. They're a little more protectionist, but by and large, it's very good for the industry. And the last minute provisions, there's a little bit of drama early this week with Mexico objecting to some of the labor provisions put in there by the House Democrats last week. And that got resolved because it's a trade deal that all three countries were hoping would get going pretty soon. So the next step for it is to be passed in the Senate. And yet again, this other thing that's getting in the way, this impeachment, we don't know what's going to happen in the Senate in the next weeks or months, but whatever they decide on that, Senate leaders have said USMCA will come after that. So, before USMCA was held hostage in the House, and now it'll be held hostage in the Senate, but hopefully it's a very short time. On more exciting news, you had a pretty fun column this week on a USA Today list featuring the top retailers in each state and top independent retailers in each state. And as soon as I saw that list, I thought, ooh, Pamela's not going to like some of these.
I think a lot of people didn't like some of those. And here's the deal. Anytime one of these best lists comes out, the methodology of it is always, you always really have to take a look at something like that. Like Consumer Reports has its methodology of the way that they rank grocery stores. And then there's ones that are best places to work. This one took Yelp reviews for grocers state by state to find the top five that had the top five ranks. So the percentage Yelp ratings or whatever. And then they went to Google Trends and did search velocity for those retailers in a 1 week period. So that's going to come up with some interesting results. And John Pandel from Pandel Brothers pointed out that this is the future. This AI technology can miss things like picking Trader Joe's as the best grocer in New York. I mean, is there any other grocer that may have a problem with that?
It seems like they might be forgetting one that's pretty well known in other circles, like maybe Consumer Reports listing it as the #1 in the nation or something like that.
I don't know, Wegmans. I call them the Marsha Brady of grocery. And it's because they win everything, right? They win all the time, but it's well deserved. So I decided to go pick state by state and pick ones that I think, especially some independents, because the USA Today list picks I don't even know how they came up with some of these independents. They consider an independent grocer a single store operation.
That's a little limiting, I think.
That's very limiting because within the grocery industry, we consider independents to be under 100. The NTA members, I think, number.
Certainly above under 1.
Yeah, so if with that in mind, I went through and picked some that I think deserved a nod, deserved some accolades. I heard back from a few of them as well who said, "Hey, thanks. We saw that list. We were kind of like, what's up?" So if you go take a look at that at producebluebook.com, you can add a bunch to your store check bucket list.
I will point out that the #1 independent store for Missouri is only about 2 miles from my house.
Oh, have you been there?
I have been there. I do not shop for produce there. It's called McGonigal's Market, and it's very famous for meat.
Yeah. So this list, the other thing too is this list wasn't necessarily the best produce grocer, but if you go by every metric that people rank grocery stores and rank satisfaction on grocery stores, produce is actually either the top or very close to the top on the reasons that people shop places. So produce should be an important factor in that, if that. So yeah, go take a look, add some to your list. Let me know if there's one that I missed, and I will put it on my list too. And I had a lot of fun with that, and I think a lot of people did too.
Yeah, and they certainly consider produce, because if you take the states, your state, it was HEB, who was very famous for having an incredible produce department. And then mine, not Missouri, but Kansas, so right across the state line here, was Hy-Vee, and they're very well known for having excellent produce departments. So clearly that did factor in.
It did factor in there, but still, Trader Joe's is not the best grocer in New York. I
No,
mean,
they missed that.
I mean, they're great. They're great, but they're not better than Wegmans. So,
No.
well, speaking of retail, I also had another story that we're going to be following up on this, and this is something that I've been watching and you've been watching as well. Just came up when we talked about dark stores. Albertsons is expanding a pilot that they're doing with a company called Takeoff Technologies, and what it's doing is basically taking off some of their sales floor and converting it into an automated warehouse for e-commerce fulfillment, which I think we're in this transition period. We've talked about this before. There is no way that we have a sustainable future for e-commerce if we are paying someone to merchandise, especially fruits and vegetables, and then paying another person to pick it and pack it and deliver it to somebody. In the long run, it doesn't make sense. And even
Not
Target,
even in the short run.
Even in the short run, yeah. I
They're
mean,
losing money on that system, almost everyone who does that.
Yeah. So, and even Target, which is like kind of the model for changing over sales floor space into order fulfillment space, isn't actually merchandising things only to repack them. They're making their stores into more of a distribution hub. But we're not talking about grocery and fresh produce. So to see a grocer do this, I think is fascinating. And I pulled a video that shows you what the Takeoff technology does and put it in the story. So if anyone wants to see how they reorient the sales floor space, which I think is a great choice. It's going to hurt center store in the long run, I think. But retailers are going to have to find a way to justify a consumer's time to get them into the store, and standing there picking your brand of cornflakes is not it. Picking your produce is, or picking your prepared foods to take home. That's definitely what's going to bring people in and keep them coming in.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Weekend Review. And that's it for our pre-Christmas Christmas Spectacular.
So hey, I have to point out, right behind your shoulder there, that looks like a major award.
It is a major award. It is a major award. I actually have a full-size one downstairs. Surprising no one, probably.
Nope, not surprised.
All right. Well, you can take your unicorn candy canes and rainbows and Merry Christmas, and have a good weekend there, Greg.
All right. You too. Merry Christmas to our audience.